"You street hawkers. You don't belong among decent folk. You reek of fish, stay in your little shack, and don't poke your head out." I heard these words from my mother-in-law after I paid for my sister-in-law's wedding, a grand affair costing $300,000. Even my husband smirked and added, "To be honest, honey, you do look a bit unrefined." In response, I silently canceled the banquet hall reservation. The cruel downfall of my sister-in-law, who would be thrown out in a cheap rental dress in front of all her guests, was about to begin. Hello, dear listeners. Before I start my story, I'd like to show you my hands. These rough hands, with their calloused knuckles and many small scars. My name is Catherine. Today, many know me as the owner of Kate's Table, a chain of successful restaurants. But I started with a small food cart, selling street tacos on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Left alone at an early age without my parents, I found myself adrift in this vast world. All I had was an apron, soaked with tears, and the relentless drive that sent me to the wholesale market every morning. I know what poverty is and how terrifying it can be. That's why the success I achieved through my hard work was priceless to me. I swore that my family, those I welcomed into my inner circle, would never know the hardships I had endured. I think that's where my tragedy truly began. Today, as usual, I woke up at 4 a.m. and went to the wholesale market downtown. Tired, permeated by the smells of sweat and produce, I opened the front door and heard something I never expected. "Mom, look! This seems to be Kate's new serum. One bottle costs like $500. Oh my God. Can I have it?" It was the voice of my sister-in-law, Sarah. I froze in the hallway, catching my breath, then walked into the living room. My mother-in-law, Patricia, was relaxing in a massage chair, while Sarah was rummaging through my bedroom, at my vanity, putting my cosmetics into her bag. Not only that, but she was wearing my favorite silk robe. "Patricia, Sarah, what are you doing here so early?" Without even a warning. And Sarah, that robe, it's from my closet. When I spoke softly, Patricia, without even opening her eyes, lazily drawled, "You could at least greet us politely, instead of rattling on about your clothes. Sarah is getting married soon, to a very respectable man. Surely, as the older sister-in-law, you wouldn't begrudge her a simple robe?" "You're so petty, Catherine." "Patricia, it's not about begrudging, it's just my personal space. Our David picked you up, a beaten-down girl, and thanks to him, you're now a businesswoman. We welcomed a nobody street hawker into our family, so at least be grateful for that." The word street hawker from Patricia always struck me right in the heart. 10 years ago, when we got married, their family was drowning in debt. Collectors came to their house because of gambling debts left by my husband's father. Had she forgotten who then gave all her savings from selling the food cart and all her earnings to pay off their $50,000 debt? "Mom, have you forgotten how I paid off your debts, funded Sarah's college education and her internship abroad? You all live off the money I earn with my blood, sweat, and tears." Then my voice grew louder, and from the bedroom, rubbing his eyes, my husband emerged. "What's all this noise first thing in the morning?" "Catherine, why are you yelling at Mom again? Have some decency. Everyone already knows how successful you are. Why do you have to show it off at home too?" My husband, David, not only didn't stand up for me, but yawned and slumped onto the couch. In my company, he was listed as a vice president, though in reality, he only played golf and frequented country clubs with a corporate credit card. "David, do you think this is normal? Your sister takes my things without asking, and your mother says outrageous things." "Oh, come on. So Mom took something. So what? You've got money to burn in your restaurants. Don't be such a Scrooge. Your behavior, you know, is off-putting. I'm only with you out of pity. Off-putting." These words, which my husband repeated like a mantra, left me speechless. The people who lived in luxury on money I earned, battling suppliers and humbling myself before partners, were telling me I was off-putting. Sarah, standing nearby with a smirk, continued to pack my cosmetics into her bag. "Don't be so upset, sister-in-law. I've got a big deal coming up. You know, my fiancé comes from a family of doctors. My future father-in-law said their family doesn't tolerate bad manners, so you'd better behave well towards me. Who knows? Maybe you'll need the help of a professor's wife's sister-in-law someday." Her self-assurance brought a bitter smile to my face. This girl, who at 28 had never worked a day in her life, was boasting that she found a doctor husband with my money, as if it were her personal achievement. But even then, I didn't imagine how far their audacity could go, and how this wedding would become a tool to trample me in the dirt. News of Sarah's wedding swept through our house like a hurricane. She called me every day, demanding help with her preparation for the role of a professor's wife. One evening, my husband's entire family gathered at our house. David, with an unusually enthusiastic face, opens an expensive bottle of wine, and Patricia sat as if she were a duchess, at the very least. "Darling, we chose a wedding venue for Sarah today. You won't believe it when you hear." My husband, filling my glass, gave me a sideways glance. I had a bad feeling, but I silently asked, "And where is it?" Sarah, as if she had been waiting for just that, held out her phone with a photo. It was a luxurious hotel in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, where renting a ballroom for one night cost a fortune. "Look, Catherine, this is where my future husband's entire family has always celebrated their weddings. It's a different level, a different class. The groom's parents said they'd be ashamed to host guests anywhere less grand. Sarah, but the rent and banquet here will cost at least $300,000. Do you have that kind of savings?" Silence fell over the living room. Patricia loudly placed her cup on the table. "How tactless you are. Where would Sarah get that kind of money? And besides, her marriage is a celebration for our entire family. Are you suggesting Sarah should pay for it herself?" "So, Mom, you don't mean that I should pay?" "Naturally, your husband has a reputation, and we don't want our Sarah to feel humiliated in front of her new family. That family consists of established professionals. We must match their level. Your business is booming. So $300,000 is pocket change for you, isn't it?" I looked desperately at my husband, but he averted his gaze. "David, you knew about this? What kind of childish game is this? We're launching a new brand. We're counting every penny right now. Stop playing poor. Do you think I don't know about your nest egg? This is my sister's wedding. It's once in a lifetime. Just help her out. I've already boasted to all my friends that my sister is getting married at the most expensive hotel in New York. If you refuse, I'll lose face." Sarah, hearing her brother's words, immediately began to whimper. "Catherine, how can you be like this? I'm not just doing this for myself. If I marry well, I can help David with his business too. You achieved everything by yourself, so maybe that's why you're so calculating. How can you be like this with family?" Family. The word they pulled out of their sleeve like a trump card, only when they needed something. For 10 years, I'd been patching up holes in their budget because I was family, and they felt it was their full right to take my hard-earned money. Fine, but this is the last time. I'll pay $300,000 for the banquet hall. But, Sarah, no more exorbitant demands during the wedding preparations. Agreed? In the end, I gave in again. I believed it was the only way to break this vicious cycle. I held a faint hope that once Sarah got married, their endless requests for money would finally stop. "Oh, Catherine, you're the best. Sister, I won't forget you after I'm married. I'll definitely thank you." Sarah instantly changed her expression and hung on my arm with a smile. Patricia also smiled contentedly. "See, Catherine, now you're behaving like a good daughter-in-law should. It's about time." That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. There was a hollow ache in my chest. I had paid an enormous sum of $300,000, but instead of sincere gratitude, I only heard that I had finally done what I was supposed to do. But I couldn't have imagined that this banquet hall, paid for by me, would become the stage for even greater humiliation. My husband's family was already plotting how to get rid of me. They wanted to use my money to elevate their status, but they saw me, the one who earned that money, as a shameful stain, an unfit addition to their brilliant facade. A week later, the hotel called to confirm payment. "Yes, Miss Andrews, $300,000 for the banquet hall rental has been fully paid. Can we now proceed with booking the wedding dress and makeup for the bride?" With a bitter smile, I replied, "Yes, of course, I'll pay for everything. Let my sister-in-law choose whatever she wants." Up to this point, I was still testing the limits of my patience. And that limit was finally shattered a few days later, when Patricia called me for a private conversation. After paying that colossal sum of $300,000 for the hall rental, I had mixed feelings. On one hand, resentment and bitterness, but on the other, relief, as if I had finally overcome a high mountain. Surely after this, they would understand my true intentions, recognize me as a full member of the family, a true relative. I lived with such naive hope. But, my dears, I underestimated human greed and arrogance. I couldn't have imagined that the money I gave them would become the sharpest weapon in their hands, aimed squarely at me. A few days after the call from the hotel, as I was deeply engrossed in preparing for a new menu launch at the restaurant, my mother-in-law Patricia called me. Usually, she got straight to the point, but this time her voice was surprisingly quiet and calm. "Catherine, are you busy? Please come to the hotel cafe. I have something very important to discuss with you. A serious decision has been made regarding Sarah's wedding." There was a strange tension in her voice. I thought there might be some problems with the preparations, and quickly finishing my work, I drove to the meeting place. Entering the hotel lobby, I saw the very same luxurious chandeliers that seemed to greet me. In the corner of the cafe sat my mother-in-law. She was wearing an expensive silk scarf I had given her for her last birthday, and on her hand, gracefully holding a cup, sparkled a diamond ring, also bought by me. She looked elegant, but her appearance exuded an inexplicable coldness. "Mom, have you been waiting long? What's the urgent matter? Why did you call me here? Did something happen with the wedding preparations?" I asked, sitting down. My mother-in-law slowly put down her cup, then took out a neatly prepared guest list and evening program from her bag and placed them in front of me. In the program, I saw lines that weren't there before. "Here, look, this is the guest list for Sarah's wedding. It came from the groom's side, and it's quite impressive, I must say. Former Supreme Court justices, chief physicians of university hospitals. In short, the entire high society of the country. You've probably heard how thoroughly the groom's parents scrutinize our family to ensure we meet their standards. Yes, that's why I've prepared everything to the highest standard, from the banquet hall to the gifts, to meet their expectations. But why isn't my name on the list?" My hands froze as I scanned the program. In the family presentation section, only my mother-in-law, husband, and sister-in-law were listed. My name was nowhere. I looked up at my mother-in-law. She looked at me with a firm, cold gaze. "Catherine, you understand that marriage is a union of two families. Especially a union with such a respected family requires everything to be on the same level. So, here's what I mean. The groom's family thinks we are a distinguished family of established professionals, that our son is a successful businessman, and his wife is a graduate of a prestigious university, a modest housewife who takes care of the home and children." It felt as if the ground was slipping from under my feet. I couldn't believe my ears. "Mom, what are you saying? What prestigious university graduate? You know better than anyone how I started, selling tacos at the market. And how can you hide me now, when my company holds such a position in the industry?" "That's precisely the problem." My mother-in-law suddenly raised her voice, slamming her cup on the table. The sharp clang echoed through the cafe. "If it becomes known that the daughter-in-law in our family is an aggressive street hawker who smells of fish from the market, Sarah's wedding is over. Do you think the groom's parents will be happy with a daughter-in-law with the manners of a market trader? Your blunt way of speaking, your rough hands. Do you think that can be hidden? And they're already expecting to meet a refined and well-mannered girl from a good family." At that moment, the scars on my hands seemed to burn. For 10 years, I had paid off this family's debts, supported my sister-in-law, shedding tears, and all of it was erased by the label of unrefined street hawker. "And what do you want from me, Mom?" My voice trembled, but my mother-in-law, ignoring it, took another white envelope from her bag and tossed it in front of me. "This is money for an outfit for the wedding. Although, you won't need an outfit. Catherine, I'll be direct. You won't be appearing at the wedding. We'll tell the groom's family that you suddenly fell ill and were hospitalized, and you'll just quietly stay home. Or if you really want to come, there's a small staff room behind the kitchen. You can hide there." "Hide?" "At my sister-in-law's wedding, which I paid for." "Shush! Someone might hear. How dense can you be? Are you going to show up and shout to the whole hall that you paid for everything?" What will happen to our family's reputation? Our son will be seen as a worthless husband, and Sarah, a girl who married on a street hawker's money. Do you want to ruin my daughter's life? Every word from my mother-in-law was like a knife to the heart. They needed my money, but I, who earned it, was a disgrace to them. What cruel and cowardly logic. I stared dumbfounded at the white envelope lying before me. It probably contained a few $100s, dust compared to the $300,000 I had paid. With this money, she was trying to silence me and turn me into a ghost. Mom, when I paid your bills for 10 years, Sarah's education and internships, were you not ashamed of me then? Then my money smelled good, but now I've suddenly become a street hawker. How can you do this to me? How stubborn you are. This is all for Sarah's sake. Don't act like a savage who doesn't fit her new family's level. Understand, finally, your job is to give money and step aside. You've increased the credit card limit. On the wedding day, there will be many additional expenses. If you don't come, at least leave the card. And remember, don't even think about sitting at the family table. If the groom's parents see you there, our family could be accused of fraud. Understood? My mother-in-law, considering everything said, stood up. Leaving me with a gaze colder than cooled tea, she left. I sat there for a long time, as if chained. The luxurious interior around me suddenly began to mock me. You, a street hawker, really thought you belonged in this hotel? The walls seemed to ask. With trembling hands, I picked up my phone. I called the only person I believed would understand my anger and protect me. My husband. David, I just met with your mom. She told me not to come to the wedding, said she was ashamed of me, and told me to hide in a staff room or not show up at all. Do you think this is normal? My hands are shaking so much I can't even drive. My voice cracked, mixed with sobs, but my husband's reply from the phone was not at all what I expected. Oh, so Mom already told you, Catherine, but you try to understand too. Mom isn't entirely wrong. His indifferent response made my blood run cold. Was this the same man who, 10 years ago, holding my hand, promised to protect me all his life? Are you out of your mind? You're saying Mom isn't wrong? Why do you immediately scream? Frankly speaking, you're always working. Your manners are a bit rough, blunt, and everyone there is refined, from legal circles. If you come and start hinting that you paid for everything, what position will Sarah be in? Her future is at stake. If you just endure it once, everything in our family will be peaceful. Mom also cares about you when she says things like that. My husband, with absolute certainty, demanded a sacrifice from me. The man who played golf with my money, drove a car I bought, at the moment my dignity was trampled, was the first to turn away from me. Coward. This was the true face of the man I had loved for 10 years. You're ashamed of me too? For the money I earn, on which you buy your clothes and support your mother? You're not ashamed of that, but you're ashamed of me, who earned it. I feel so humiliated right now, I don't want to live after your words. There you go again. You're always throwing it in everyone's face. That's why they call you a shrew. Don't get arrogant just because you made a little money. I'm the one who's putting up with someone like you. Behave yourself, and do what Mom said. I have a golf meeting now. So, goodbye for now. Beep, beep, beep. The call disconnected. In the deafening silence of the cafe, I held the phone to my ear for a long time. I thought tears would stream down, but strangely, they didn't. Instead, a cold, hard fire began to burn deep within me. Fine. You talk about level. I'll show you. I'll show you how your boasted level will collapse when the money you love so much disappears. Let's see what's left of it. I picked up my bag and stood. At the exit, a hotel employee politely bowed to me. Miss Andrews, how are the wedding preparations coming along? I smiled coldly at his question. My revenge was just beginning. To these people who called me a street hawker and tried to corner me, I was going to show them the most powerful weapon a merchant possesses. Leaving the hotel, I made a decision. The luxurious lights of that banquet hall would illuminate not Sarah's wedding dress, but their pathetic downfall. The mask of respectability they so desperately tried to maintain, I would tear off with my own hands. Descending to the dark parking garage, I got into my car and immediately picked up my phone. I called the hotel's general manager. with whom I had built a trusting relationship over 10 years of collaboration. There was only one thing left for me to do: dismantle the stage I had built myself. They told me not to come. Excellent. I won't come. I perfectly won't come. But will that luxurious wedding they dreamed of remain in the place where I won't be? Clenching the cold steering wheel, I whispered, "Mom, David, I will let you live according to the level you spoke of, at rock bottom." As I drove out of the hotel parking lot, my hands wouldn't stop trembling. The scar on the back of my hand burned as if it had been branded again. I remember the day it appeared. I had just opened my first food cart, and in the rush of orders, hot oil from the fryer splashed on me. Back then, my husband, applying ointment to my hand, had tears in his eyes as he said, "Catherine, it's all because of me. You suffer so much. I will spend my whole life making sure this scar isn't in vain." His gentle voice echoed in my memory, but the cold voice I had just heard on the phone belonged to a different man. Mom isn't entirely wrong. That phrase pierced my heart like an arrow. On the way home, the night landscape of Los Angeles seemed especially alien and cold today. Until the very end, I held on to a faint hope that my husband would come to his senses, call back, and say, "I'm sorry. I'll talk to Mom. I'll convince her." But my phone never rang all the way home. Opening the door, I saw the living room light was on. My husband was sprawled on the expensive sofa I had bought, watching golf. On the table was an uncorked bottle of expensive wine I had received as a gift from business partners. Looking at his calm back, I felt rage boiling within me. "You're back? Oh, look at these pros. You should also, Catherine, not just make money but learn something like this. For status." My husband, without tearing his gaze from the screen, casually uttered these words. I put down my bag and walked up to him. "David, look at me. Were you serious about what you said on the phone? That I shouldn't come to Sarah's wedding? Do you really think that?" My husband irritably put down the remote and sat up. Then, with a heavy sigh, he looked at me. There was not a trace of guilt in his eyes, only annoyance. "Why are you starting this conversation again? I explained everything to you on the phone. Do you think Mom hates you? She's saying this for the good of our family. You know what kind of family they are. These people have very high standards. Do you really think your blunt demeanor would be appropriate there? Blunt demeanor? And you're saying this to your wife? And because of whom did I become like this? Why did I haul boxes of fish at the market for 10 years, reeking of oil? Why did I do all of this? To pay off your family's debts, to give your sister an education, so you could now lie comfortably on that sofa." In response to my angry outburst, my husband merely smirked. "There's that song about money again. Yes, I know you earned money. Thank you. Do I have to grovel at your feet every time? That's your problem. You do something, and then you hold it over everyone's head for the rest of their lives. That's why Mom says you're blunt. Honestly, no matter how much you put on makeup or adorn yourself with designer brands, that specific smell of a street hawker never leaves you. Imagine what their relatives will think of our family if you sit at the family table. The smell of a street hawker." These words tore at my soul. In the eyes of the man I had considered family for 10 years and to whom I had dedicated myself, I was merely a foul-smelling street hawker. "And you? Aren't you ashamed to play golf with my money and drive a car I bought? You, living off money, permeated by this street hawker smell. Does that give you status? What vulgar words. Who do I live like this for? I sacrificed my career to help you with your business and hold this director position. Do you know how much I boast about you to my friends to uphold your image? And it's so hard for you to endure one day for your sister's wedding. You're truly selfish." My husband, angered, guzzled his wine, then delivered the decisive phrase, "Mom said that since you're not coming to the wedding, just increase the limit on the credit card. Sarah needs to buy a lot of things for her new home. You don't have children. What are you going to spend all that money on? These are the times when you need to help family, to truly be family. Isn't that right?" At that moment, I realized that to this man, I was neither a wife nor a partner. I was simply a bottomless ATM, a shadowy worker supporting their luxurious life. My humiliation and pain completely did not concern him. Family. Fine. Now I understand what you mean by that word. For you, How Sarah looks in the eyes of the doctor's family is more important than my feelings. You're fine with me hiding in a staff room and eating out of a container, just so your reputation isn't damaged. Why do you exaggerate everything so much? It doesn't mean hiding, it means showing tact. You really are off-putting. You got rich, and now you're humiliating people. What a fool I am for even trying to talk to you. My husband, clicking his tongue, stormed into the bedroom. The sound of the slamming door echoed like the collapse of my world within my chest. Left alone in the living room, I stood in the dim light. Golf was still playing on the TV, and on the table, the half-empty bottle of wine exuded a pungent aroma. I slowly lowered my gaze to my hands. Rough, working hands. It felt as if my entire life, built by these hands, my entire family, which I had protected, had in an instant turned into a mirage. But the sadness didn't last long. In its place came something cold and hard. It was determination. All right, David, you're right. I'm a street hawker, and street hawkers never make unprofitable deals. You judged my level and cast me aside, so now I'll return you to your place, to that very bottom, to that pathetic reality where you once were. I sat on the sofa and took a folder of documents from my bag. It was a list of all the expenses I had paid for Sarah's wedding. Ballroom, rental, and banquet at the hotel, $300,000. Wedding dress and bride's makeup, $25,000. Gifts for the groom's family. Designer handbags and watches, $50,000. Honeymoon. Business class tickets and a villa, $40,000. With each line I read, anger gave way to cold confidence. All of this had been paid with my personal and corporate cards. I picked up my phone and called my college friend Andrea, who was a divorce attorney. It was already past 11 p.m., but I couldn't delay. Andrea, are you asleep? It's Catherine. I'm sorry, it's so late. Catherine, what happened? Why do you sound like that? Hearing Andrea's worried voice, I felt a lump in my throat for a moment, but continued calmly, I'm getting a divorce. Start preparing the documents right now, and find a way to get back all the money I've invested in my husband's family over the years, from monthly allowances to Sarah's education and this wedding. I want every penny back. I don't want to leave a single dollar in the hands of these people. Catherine, what happened? You've tolerated so much for so long. I'll tell you later. Right now, I'm going to cancel all reservations and payments made in my name. No matter what the penalty is, that luxurious stage they dream of, I will demolish it with my own hands. Hanging up, I opened my laptop and logged into the hotel's booking system. VIP client, Catherine Andrews. Seeing my name on the screen, I smiled coldly. The hotel manager had told me that without a personal request from the owner, nothing could be changed in the booking. This meant that with a single click, I could put an end to this entire fantasy. I hovered the cursor over the cancel reservation button, but didn't click. If I did it now, they would have time to react. The cruelest revenge is to strip away hope at its peak. I had to destroy the foundation of their world at the very moment they would be elegantly smiling at their guests. I looked at the bedroom door again. My husband's snoring could be heard from inside. While his wife was enduring such humiliation, he was sleeping soundly. David, I'll show you what an off-putting woman means. You can look forward to your beloved sister's wedding day and watch your boasted level collapse. I closed my laptop and quietly began to pack my things. This house was in my name, but I didn't want to spend the night here today. I threw a few outfits into my suitcase and left. Closing the front door behind me, I felt that with it, a 10-year chapter of my married life was also closing. Stepping into the hallway, I felt the cold night air on my cheeks, but, strangely, my heart felt light and refreshed, as never before. Well then, it's time to begin, Catherine. Time to show them the abyss that will open in the place from which they erased you. I got into my car and started the engine. But I didn't drive to my usual night market. I drove to the city's best hotel, where I planned to stay. There, in silence and comfort, I was going to elegantly and meticulously plan their downfall. My husband's family, suspecting nothing, had sweet dreams, and Sarah would surely send me a new shopping list tomorrow morning. Their high society wedding was doomed even before I pressed the cancel button. The clock of my revenge had only just begun its countdown. My dears, revenge is a dish best served cold. It's far more painful not to burn with fire, but to pierce with a sharp, icy needle. That night, after leaving the house, I settled into a booked hotel suite. The bright lights of Los Angeles outside the window seemed like festive illumination in my honor. Sitting on the bed with my laptop, I once again carefully reviewed my list of payments. $300,000 for the banquet hall, tens of thousands for the dress and jewelry. All of it was a mirage, built on my sweat and blood. It was time to dispel that mirage. The next morning, I woke up much earlier than usual. The first thing I did was call the hotel's general manager. Over 10 years of hosting corporate events, we had developed a trusting relationship. Mr. Manager, I apologize for calling so early. This is Catherine Andrews. Miss Andrews, how may I assist you at this hour? Is it about your sister-in-law's wedding tomorrow? Everything is ready to the highest standard. In response to his cheerful voice, I smiled coldly. Mr. Manager, unfortunately, I am forced to cancel tomorrow's event right now. Silence fell in the receiver for a few seconds. The manager, as if he hadn't heard, asked in confusion, Cancel what? Miss Andrews, but the wedding is tomorrow. If you cancel now, the penalty will be almost the full cost. Do you understand that? Yes, I understand perfectly. The penalty amount doesn't matter. Deduct it from the $300,000 already paid and return the balance to my company account. And most importantly, if my husband's family contacts you, under no circumstances tell them that I canceled the reservation. Tell them there was a problem with the reservation, and a meeting with the manager is required. Until their arrival at the hotel tomorrow morning, behave as usual. The manager, being a professional, seemed to understand everything. After a short sigh, he replied, Since you are so adamant, Miss Andrews, very well. Your identity is confirmed. I will immediately cancel the reservation. Tomorrow, this ballroom will be used for a corporate seminar for another VIP client. Does that suit you? Yes, that's excellent. Thank you. Hanging up, I felt a heavy burden lift from my shoulders. But this was only the beginning. I immediately called the upscale bridal salon and makeup studio where Sarah was booked. Hello. I am Catherine Andrews, sister-in-law of the bride Sarah Miller, booked for tomorrow morning. Yes, I confirm I am the payer. I am canceling all appointments for tomorrow. Do not send the dress by courier. Leave it at the salon. For the makeup, mark it as a no-show. Deduct the penalty from the already paid amount on my card. The salon representatives were in shock. Canceling all services for a bride the day before the wedding? It was unheard of, but I calmly went through the identity verification process, step by step, cutting off all their escape routes. And then my phone started ringing off the hook. It was Patricia. I didn't answer, silently rejecting the call. A message immediately came. Catherine, where are you? David said you packed your things and left. What kind of antics are these? Come home immediately. The wedding is tomorrow, and the daughter-in-law ran away from home. I smirked coldly, reading the message. Daughter-in-law. Now they remembered that word. When they needed something, I was family, and when they were ashamed of the street hawker, I was a stranger. The hypocritical address only evoked disgust. My husband called. This time, I answered. I wanted to hear his bewildered voice. Catherine, where are you? Are you crazy? Why are you staying in a hotel? And did you see Mom's message? Are you really not coming to the wedding? If you don't show up, I'll lose face. Face, David? It's all about your reputation. Your mother herself said I shouldn't come because she's ashamed of me. I'm just fulfilling your wishes. Perfectly fulfilling them. So, what's the problem? But you have to be home. Even if Mom said that, how could you actually not come? You're supposed to be there, paying with the card, solving problems. Come back quickly. I'm discussing with my friends where we'll celebrate the second day. My husband, still unaware of tomorrow's hell, was still planning to carouse with my money. I quietly whispered, David, tomorrow I will show you clearly what it means to behave on level. Wait and see. What is it with you and your off-putting attitudes again? Just try not showing up in the ballroom tomorrow. It'll be over between us. That's great. I myself want to be done with a coward like you. I hung up and went down to the hotel cafe to meet my lawyer, Andrea. She was already waiting for me with a thick folder of documents. Catherine, here are all the statements of transfers to your mother-in-law and a printout of corporate card expenses. Over the past 10 years, $2,500 monthly for living expenses, $75,000 for Sarah's education, and almost $400,000 for this wedding preparation. All of this can be disputed in court not as gifts, but as loans or unjust enrichment. Andrea, do everything to the maximum. I don't want a single penny they earned without effort to remain with them, especially that condo registered in my husband's name. It was effectively bought with my money. Prepare everything so that during asset division or through recognition of a simulated transaction, I get the advantage. Andrea looked at me with sympathy and took my hand. Catherine, are you sure? You put so much effort and soul into these people. Soul? No, Andrea, that wasn't soul. That was my foolishness. I succumbed to the gaslighting called family and tore pieces from myself to feed them. Now I will take all those pieces back, and I don't care if they starve or end up on the streets. Andrea and I meticulously worked through the scenario for the court proceedings for several hours. The plan was as follows. At the moment the wedding collapsed, divorce petitions and asset freeze orders would be delivered to them. Closer to evening, a message came from Sarah. A voice message, recorded in a very excited tone. Kate, I just picked up the gifts for my fiancé's relatives. Thanks for increasing the card limit. I chose all the most expensive things. Even though you won't be there tomorrow because you're ashamed, it's still your money, right? So I'll be happy for you too. Oh, and also, tomorrow at 9 a.m., the dress should be delivered from the salon to the hotel. Please confirm the payment again. I replayed this message and silently laughed. My dear sister-in-law, I'm sorry, but tomorrow morning, that dress won't be arriving. And those luxurious watches you were so eager to show off, the moment I clicked cancel, became your personal debt. At night, I opened my laptop one last time for a final check. Hotel, dress, makeup, airline tickets, everything was in canceled status. Now, all I had to do was elegantly wake up tomorrow morning, enjoy some spa treatments, and watch their downfall in real time. I looked out the dark window and made a vow to myself. Catherine, you are no longer someone's cash cow. You exist for yourself. 10 years ago, the calluses on your hands pulled you out of that terrible poverty, not the love of that cowardly man. Before bed, I looked in the mirror. My eyes, which just yesterday were full of pain from betrayal, now shone with a cold, clear light. I whispered to myself, "Good night, Catherine. Tomorrow awaits the most grandiose and spectacular show of your life." I imagined how tomorrow morning my husband's family, dressed in festive attire, would arrive at the hotel lobby and be met with deafening emptiness. I was itching to know how their faces would contort when they realized that the world built on the money of the despised street hawker had crumbled. The night was quiet, but this silence was not anxiety, but a brisk countdown to the beginning of my revenge. Midnight passed. Judgment Day was dawning. Darkness receded, and the morning of the decisive day arrived. Usually, by this time, I would have already returned from the market, covered in sweat, and preparing breakfast for my husband. But today, everything was different. Waking up, I saw the crisp, white hotel sheets before me and the bright morning light streaming through the panoramic window. For the first time in 10 years, I woke up with a complete sense of freedom from obligation. A perfect morning. I lazily stretched and checked my phone. The family chat had been buzzing since early morning. My mother-in-law, Patricia, had sent several enthusiastic voice messages. David, Sarah, this is the day. The historic day when our family will unite with respected people. Sarah, today at the salon, be the most beautiful. And don't pay attention to that, Catherine, the street hawker. She won't be there anyway. We'll celebrate everything elegantly within our own circle. Following that was a message from my husband. Mom, don't worry. I sorted everything out with Catherine yesterday. The card limit is huge, so don't deny yourselves anything today. I'm gathering my friends and heading to the hotel now. Reading their exchange, I smiled bitterly. They were raising their glasses, unaware that all their well-being and expectations had already evaporated after my single click of the cancel button. How terrifying blissful ignorance can be. I put on my robe and went up to the private spa on the hotel's top floor. Name on the guest list: Catherine Andrews. The staff greeted me with exceptional courtesy. Lying in a room filled with the aromas of oils, I relaxed. As the masseuse's hands touched my shoulders, I felt the muscles melt, hardened over 10 years at the market, in the kitchen, and from the humiliations inflicted by my husband's family. "This is it, Catherine," I whispered to myself. "You deserve this treatment. You've suffered too much." The spa treatments ended at 9:30 a.m. According to the original plan, Sarah should have been sitting in the chair of a famous stylist on Fifth Avenue right now, transforming into a luxurious bride, and her $12,000 dress should have already been delivered to the salon entrance. After the spa, I sat in the lounge, elegantly sipping espresso, and then I heard the sound of the first bomb exploding. My phone began to vibrate wildly. It was my sister-in-law, Sarah, calling. I calmly answered. Her piercing scream came from the receiver. Catherine, where are you? What's happening?" "I came to the salon, and my appointment is canceled. The staff says my name isn't on the list, and they won't let me in. Fix this fast." "Fast, Sarah? The appointment is canceled? That can't be. I paid for everything. Maybe you gave the wrong name?" I spoke as calmly and surprised as possible. Sarah was already sobbing. "No! How can I get my own name wrong? The manager came out and said that yesterday the payer personally canceled everything. It wasn't you who canceled, was it? Call them, rebook me. I'm standing out here on the street, not even made up. Sarah, I'm in an important meeting right now. I can't talk long. I'll try to contact the hotel manager. Just wait." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The first step in revenge. Sow chaos in the enemy. Calls immediately poured in from Patricia and my husband, but I turned my phone screen down and admired the view from the window. 10 A. The hotel lobby should have been filling with guests by now. The groom's family was probably arriving, dreaming of elegantly greeting guests in the perfectly decorated ballroom. But neither a bridal suite nor floral arrangements awaited them there. Even their names were not on the hotel's guest list. I stood up and changed into my pre-selected outfit. It wasn't a market work apron, nor a flashy dress my husband criticized me for. It was a sharp, elegant pantsuit, custom-made clothing that symbolized my dignity and suited only me, Catherine Andrews. In the mirror, I looked more confident than ever. No smell of fish or oil, only the aura of a successful businesswoman who had reclaimed herself. Descending to the first floor, I heard a commotion from afar, familiar voices. Yes, it was my husband's family. David, elegantly dressed, and Patricia in an evening gown, were arguing with the hotel staff. They were still raising their voices, shouting about who they were and how much money they had paid for the hall rental. But the moment the money of the despised street hawker disappeared, their authority became colder than the marble floor of the hotel lobby. I watched them for a while, then calmly headed for the exit. I had a more important meeting with my lawyer, Andrea, who was to help me open a new chapter in my life. Before leaving the hotel, I sent a message to the general manager. "Mr. Manager, you may begin. Proceed strictly according to protocol, as we agreed." Stepping outside, I felt the fresh wind on my cheeks. The screams and wails of horror emanating from inside no longer hurt me. They sounded like a beautiful symphony. Well, the real show was beginning. I wondered what their true level would be when they found themselves in an empty ballroom without luxurious dresses and celebratory music. I got into my waiting car. The fateful noon hour approached, and this moment would become for some the greatest shame, and for me, a moment of absolute liberation. Driving away from the hotel, I couldn't move immediately. Their bewildered faces still flashed before my eyes. In the end, I parked in a nearby alley and decided to listen in real time to the manager's report of the events unfolding. Do you think I'm too cruel? But if I remember the tears I swallowed for 10 years, enduring their humiliation, then I believe I have every right to enjoy this spectacle. 11 a.m. 1 hour before the ceremony was supposed to begin, the hotel lobby had turned into a veritable circus. Through the phone speaker, connected to the manager, I distinctly heard Patricia's scream. "What do you mean, no reservation? Get me your manager here. We paid $300,000 for this hall." $300,000. Her voice echoed under the high ceilings of the lobby. Her fancy evening gown clashed terribly with her face, crimson with rage. The manager, as I had requested, responded coldly and officially. "Please calm down. I have checked everything again. Today, an IT conference is being held in this ballroom. The reservation in the name of David or Sarah Miller was canceled yesterday with a full refund, minus the penalty." "Canceled? Who canceled it?" "My son is a VIP client of this hotel." "You don't know David Miller?" My husband, David, standing nearby, rushed to the manager. "Mr. Manager, I am David Miller, Catherine Andrews' husband. There's some mistake here. Immediately clear the hall. The groom's parents will be arriving soon. My brother-in-law is a medical professor. Even in this critical situation, my husband tried to flaunt his brother-in-law's status, but the manager's reply was firm. "Mr. Miller, we never cancel a reservation without a personal request from the payer. Yesterday afternoon, your wife, Miss Catherine Andrews, personally visited the hotel and processed the refund. Here are the documents with her signature." After these words, a deafening silence fell over the line. I could almost physically feel the heavy breathing of Patricia, David, and Sarah, who had just rushed in from the salon. Catherine herself canceled everything. It can't be. That street hawker. She dared to ruin my wedding. Sarah's piercing voice rang out. She had apparently rushed straight from the salon where she had been denied services. Messy hair, smudged makeup. She looked pathetic. "David, did you call your wife? This crazy woman. Did Catherine really do this?" Patricia, horrified, shook my husband's arm. My husband, with trembling hands, began to dial my number. My phone vibrated, but I didn't answer. The answer had already been given by the manager's words. "Mr. Manager, are you joking? Our guests are already arriving. Look, there are the groom's parents." As my husband cried out, expensive cars began pulling up to the main entrance of the hotel. Important gentlemen in sharp suits, lawyers, doctors, the very elite my husband's family had so desperately wanted to impress began to arrive. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, hello. Patricia, with a deathly pale face, rushed to greet them, but her steps were heavy and her voice trembled. "Patricia, what's going on here? There's some kind of IT seminar poster at the hall entrance, and Sarah's name is nowhere to be found. The reception said the reservation was canceled. What kind of joke is this?" The groom's father's stern voice cut through the air. The former judge's voice was even sharper and colder than usual. "Oh, no. This is our daughter-in-law. She must have gotten something mixed up. Some misunderstanding with the hotel. We'll sort everything out right away. You can wait in the cafe for now." "In the cafe? The ceremony is less than an hour away. What disrespect. Our guests are already gathering at the entrance. The hotel told me your daughter-in-law personally canceled everything. Why did she do that?" A whisper went through the guests. "Something is wrong with this family. The daughter-in-law who was supposed to pay ran away, perhaps?" These words, like knives, pierced the hearts of my husband's family. And then Sarah burst into tears. "Dad, David, how could Catherine do this to me? I'm supposed to get married today. All the guests are here. What do I do now?" Her sobs echoed inappropriately through the respectable hotel lobby. My husband, in despair, rushed to the manager. "Listen, we'll pay more. Get rid of this seminar immediately. How much do you need? Just tell me." "Mr. Miller, this is not a matter of money. We have a contract with another organization, and the hall is already fully prepared. Besides, Mr. Miller, you do not have sufficient funds on your account to pay. All cards in Catherine Andrews' name have been blocked since yesterday." This last blow from the manager completely broke my husband. He simply collapsed to the floor. I vividly imagined his expensive suit, bought with my money, wrinkling on the lobby floor. Catherine, do you really want it to be over between us? Are you crazy?" he cried into the void. But the only answer he received was a cold draft from the air conditioner. I leaned back deeply in the cafe chair and closed my eyes. Something rose in my chest, but it wasn't sadness. It was relief, as if a 10-year burden had fallen away from my soul, and joy that I had finally reclaimed control of my life. A message came from the manager. The groom's family, after a cold farewell, is leaving the hotel. The wedding is canceled. The bride's family continues to argue in the lobby. I briefly replied, "Thank you for your work. Now proceed according to protocol and call security for eviction." The level my husband's family so craved had not just fallen, it had hit rock bottom. In the empty lobby, without flowers or music, they were confronted with the gaping void left by the absence of the despised street hawker. I started the car. The first act of my revenge was perfectly executed, but this was only the beginning. Now they were about to experience pain, more real than public disgrace. "Mom, David, this is just the beginning. The life at rock bottom you spoke of, I'll make sure you live it now." I turned the steering wheel towards the courthouse. In my hands, I already held the prepared divorce petitions and asset freeze orders. The noise in the hotel lobby faded into the distance, but my heart beat strong and steady as never before. Driving away from the hotel and heading to the courthouse, I continued to listen to the manager's report of the events via speakerphone. Can you imagine the lobby of one of the most expensive hotels in Midtown Manhattan turning into a battlefield in a matter of minutes? The manager's calm voice, through which cries and wails broke through, was sweeter to me than any music, washing away the bitterness of the past 10 years. 11:30 a.m., half an hour before the supposed start of the ceremony. Hundreds of guests had gathered at the hall. The most colorful were the guests from the groom's side. Former high-ranking officials, luminaries of law and business, passed by luxurious flower arrangements at the entrance to the hall. But instead of a welcome sign with the newlyweds' names, they were met by a huge banner. AI Conference, the future of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The groom's parents froze in place. According to the manager, my mother-in-law Patricia was flitting among the guests like a madwoman, trying to explain something. "Oh, in-laws, just a minute. This is just an administrative error by the hotel. They'll fix everything right away." "David, why are you just standing there? Get on your knees and beg the manager." Her pathetic scream echoed throughout the lobby. She, who had boasted so much about her level and manners, in a critical situation behaved worse than a common market vendor. The guests, watching this scene, whispered. I could almost hear their words. "What a disgrace. To marry into the family of a former judge, and they can't even book a wedding hall properly. And where's the bride? They say there's no room for her." Yes, the bride, Sarah, was in an even more pathetic state. Since the beauty salon had been canceled, she was hiding in the hotel restroom in what she had arrived in. Eventually, when the situation became critical, my husband dragged her some cheap yellowed dress from a nearby rental shop. "What is this? I won't wear this. Where's my designer dress? What did you bring me?" Her piercing shriek cut through the lobby noise. The sight of her in a cheap rental dress for $75 instead of a silk masterpiece for $12,000 was truly pathetic. Her face haphazardly made up, hair disheveled. In this state, she appeared before the guests. At this moment, the groom's father's anger exploded. "Patricia, have you decided to insult our family? What kind of circus is this in front of our guests? No hall, no decent appearance for the bride. Your daughter-in-law canceled the payment, so there must have been reasons for it." Patricia collapsed to her knees, trying to grab his pants. "Father-in-law, I beg you, my daughter-in-law is out of her mind. She's a street hawker, without roots or lineage. That's why she decided to ruin such a day for us. I'll find her. I'll break her legs. Let's at least celebrate at the restaurant next door." But the groom's family coldly pushed her away. "It seems without roots or lineage, here isn't the daughter-in-law but your entire family. God saved our son from a union with you. Let's go before our name gets tarnished too." The groom, without even looking at Sarah, turned and walked away. She, sitting on the floor, burst into loud sobs. "Darling, don't leave me. I'm supposed to get married today. I'm supposed to become a professor's wife." Her raw cry made the guests click their tongues in disgust. Her entire essence, craving not love but merely status, was exposed for all to see. The guests, like water, began to drain from the lobby. Only the wails of my husband's family and the cheap lace from the dress scattered on the floor remained. I stopped the car on the roadside and caught my breath. I remembered how 10 years ago I had entered this family. Then Patricia, holding my hand, said, "Thank my son that you will live in luxury." Under the pretext of this luxury, I lived as a servant for 10 years. With my money, their voices grew louder and their shoulders wider. But the height they were so proud of turned out to be a house of cards, built on my bent back. Mom, Sarah, and you, David, now you understand. Your boasted world cannot last even an hour without the hand of the despised street hawker. I took the wheel again. The clock showed noon. Those who at this time should have been walking down the aisle to applause were now probably sprawled on the lobby floor, blaming each other. On my phone, there were over 100 missed calls from my husband. I calmly added his number to the blacklist. I no longer needed to hear their voices. All that remained was to reclaim what they had taken from my life in the name of the law. At the courthouse parking lot, Andrea was already waiting for me. In her hands was a bulging briefcase. "Catherine, I heard what was going on at the hotel. You're incredible. Now only the legal part remains. Ready?" I nodded. In my chest, strangely, it was calm. Perhaps that Catherine, who was a wife and daughter-in-law, had already died 1,000 times in my soul over these 10 years. "Let's go, Andrea. Let's go reclaim my real life." I confidently walked towards the courthouse building. The sun behind me shone especially warmly today. My husband's family was probably only now beginning to realize that they had discarded not just a daughter-in-law, but the only pillar holding up their lives. But regret always comes too late, and the lesson must be cruel. The last deal of Catherine, the street hawker, a flawless calculation called retribution. Exiting the courthouse building, I felt as if I were walking on clouds. Can you imagine what it's like to shed a burden that has weighed on you for 10 long years? The divorce petitions and asset freeze orders in the envelope were not just papers. They were the key to reclaiming my lost 10 years, and my final farewell to those who called me a street hawker and lived at my expense. From the courthouse parking lot, I didn't drive home, but to a restaurant in one of the skyscrapers in downtown LA, a place I had always dreamed of visiting, but never had the time, money, or desire to leave my husband's family for. Sitting by the panoramic window with a view of the entire city, I ordered the most expensive set menu and a glass of white wine. I took my phone, which had been off until now, from my bag. As soon as the screen filled with notifications, 156 missed calls, over 300 unread messages. The counter in the family chat had long since lost all meaning. Taking a sip of wine, I slowly began to read the messages. Their tone changed from anger to desperate pleas, and it all resembled a dark comedy. First were the messages from my mother-in-law, Patricia. "Catherine, where are you? Are you even human? How could you destroy my Sarah's future? Come to the hotel immediately. The groom's guests have left. It's a disaster here. Just let me catch you. I'll kill you." An hour later, the tone changed. "Catherine, yes, I was too harsh. Please come and fix this situation. The groom's family is threatening to break off the engagement. Talk to them. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. We can rebook the hall, right? I beg you, Catherine." I smirked. The journey from monster to Catherine took only an hour. That affectionate tone, which I had wanted to hear for 10 years, only appeared when the cash flow dried up. It was both bitter and ridiculously gratifying. Next were messages from my sister-in-law, Sarah. "Catherine, I'm going to do something to myself right now. Everyone here is pointing fingers at me. Look at my dress. What is this? If I don't get married today, it will be your fault. You'll pay for everything. You'll answer for my life." Answer? I already answered for everything. For her education, designer bags, internship, and even for the rental of that cheap dress, which was automatically paid from my card moments before its blocking. Until the very last moment, she blamed others, justifying her own greed. Finally, I checked the message from my husband, David. He started with threats and ended almost in sobs. "Catherine, are you crazy? You decided to destroy our family." The groom's father yelled at me, called me a swindler, and left. "Sarah is unconscious. Mom's blood pressure is spiking. She's about to collapse. If you don't show up right now, I don't know what I'll do. Catherine, I beg you, answer the phone. They broke off the engagement. We won't be able to show our faces in our neighborhood now. Is this what you wanted, our humiliation? Save us, please. It's all my fault. I beg you. And then he called again. This time, I didn't hang up. Elegantly cutting a piece of steak, I leisurely pressed the answer button. Catherine, Catherine, where are you? Just let me hear your voice, please. My husband's voice was hoarse. In the background, Patricia's sobs and Sarah's wails could be heard. David, why are you shouting so much? I'm having dinner here in peace and quiet. At my calm tone, my husband was momentarily stunned, then yelled, Having dinner? You can eat in a situation like this? You destroyed our family. Sarah's wedding is ruined. They called us swindlers and broke off the engagement. Are you out of your mind? I am. I only did what you and your mother asked. You said you were ashamed of me, a street hawker, that I didn't fit their family's level and needed to hide in a staff room or not come at all. So I acted according to your level. Since such a shameful person had no place there, I neatly removed all my traces. The hall reservation, the dress, the makeup, those were all my traces. If they had remained, it would have been tantamount to my presence. I just carefully removed everything. What's the problem? That's illogical. If you cancel the reservation, how can the wedding proceed? You knew you would disgrace us. In response to his shout, I took a sip of wine and calmly replied, Yes, I wanted to see if you could maintain your boasted level without my street hawker money. The result was pathetic. Without my money, your prestige, your important in-laws, your professor brother-in-law, everything evaporated in 1 hour. Your level turned out to be a fake, painted on my hard-earned money. Catherine, I was wrong. I made a terrible mistake. I beg you, call the hotel right now. Say it was a misunderstanding. I'll even go on my knees to them. If they know you'll pay again, they'll change their minds. Save Sarah, at least her. His humiliated plea only disgusted me. He still wasn't repentant. He merely wanted my wallet to open again. David, or rather, ex-husband, don't be mistaken. I am no longer your ATM. And I just filed for divorce in court. The condo registered in your name was bought with my money. As you know, it's already been frozen. So expect a notice. The money for your mother's support, your sister's education, and the penalty for this wedding, I'll calculate everything and send you the bill. What? Divorce? Freeze? How cruel you are. How can you do this after 10 years of marriage? My husband's voice once again filled with rage. I laughed. Cruel? You say that, you who called me a street hawker for 10 years and lived off me. I'm a street hawker, and street hawkers don't make unprofitable deals. My investments over 10 years, I'll get them back. With interest. You bitch! Just let me catch you. Do what you want. But be careful. The hotel is preparing a complaint against you for disorderly conduct and disruption of business, and the groom's family seems to be suing for fraud. You shouldn't be worrying about me right now. I hung up and turned off my phone. Quiet classical music played again in the restaurant. Outside the window, the sunset blazed, and my steak was perfectly cooked. For the first time in 10 years, food passed easily down my throat. The feeling of heaviness in my chest, which had constantly plagued me while cooking for them, enduring my mother-in-law's reproaches, had finally disappeared. They said they were ashamed, so I didn't come. What's the problem? I mumbled to myself and smiled. I thought there would be tears, but there was only laughter. The humiliation they were experiencing now on the cold lobby floor became the sweetest dessert for me. I finished my wine and stood up. It was time to become the master of my own life and confidently move forward. Free from the shackles of my husband's family, I would smell not of fish, but of success, and I would rise even higher. Well, the score is settled. Starting tomorrow, the luxurious, solitary life of Catherine begins. Walking out of the restaurant, I strode to my car with a confident gait, as if for all to see. The night landscape of Los Angeles behind me sparkled like fireworks in celebration of my victory. That night, after a luxurious dinner at the restaurant, I slept a deep, peaceful sleep for the first time in 10 years. I hadn't known how sweet it was to sleep without worrying about someone's breakfast or trying to please anyone. But while I enjoyed the peace, the night for my ex-husband's family must have been hell. The consequences of the ruined wedding turned out to be far more serious than they could have imagined. The groom's family, declaring that their honor had been tarnished, immediately sued my former family for fraud and emotional distress. The ex-fiancé, the professor, blocked Sarah's number and disappeared, and the promised condo in West Hollywood melted away like a mirage. But the real suffering was yet to come. On the day my divorce petitions and asset freeze orders were delivered to them, my husband and mother-in-law, not knowing my new address, broke into my office. "Catherine, come out immediately, you treacherous snake. You've frozen our house. You want to throw us out on the street?" Patricia's scream echoed throughout the entire floor. In the past, I would have panicked and rushed out to them, but now I calmly told my assistant, "Call the police." For illegal entry and disruption of business, I watched through the glass wall of my office as security escorted them out. Of their former grandeur, when they flaunted designer brands bought with my money, not a trace remained. Before me were only a pathetic old woman and a worthless middle-aged man. My husband, as he was being put into the police car, yelled something towards my window, but I merely smiled coldly and took a sip of coffee. In court, I didn't yield a single dollar. I provided evidence of everything: receipts for paying off their debts, bank statements for Sarah's education, millions in corporate card charges my husband spent on personal needs. The court sided with me. The condo, though registered in my husband's name, was recognized as bought with my funds and fully transferred to my ownership. The money given as loans was ordered to be repaid. In the end, they returned to where I had once pulled them from, rock bottom. I heard that after being evicted from the condo, they moved into a basement apartment in a struggling neighborhood outside the city. Sarah, unable to bear the shame and rumors of a family of swindlers, started drinking. My husband, fired from my company, at over 40 years old with no experience or skills, couldn't find work and was scraping by with odd jobs on construction sites. "Catherine, I don't want to live. Help me, please. Just one more time. I hurt myself on the construction site, and I have no money for the hospital." One night, a call came from an unknown number. In response to my husband's pathetic voice, I said, "David, or rather, Dimitri, you said you were disgusted by me, that I smelled like a street hawker. I hope now you understand that the smell of sweat from your clothes is the smell of my life, which you so despised. I kept my promise and allowed you to live at your level. Don't call me anymore." I hung up and changed my number. I cut off all paths by which they could re-enter my life. A year passed. I took Kate's table to the international market. Now, the scars on my hands are not a cause for shame, but medals that led me to success. On weekends, I relax as I wish and spend my hard-earned money on myself, denying myself nothing. I finally reclaimed the name I had forgotten for 10 years. Catherine. You know, in life, we often encounter people who try to use and humiliate us. It's especially hard to say no to those who, under the guise of family, take our loyalty for granted. But remember, there is no level in this world worth maintaining for people who don't respect you. Our life truly becomes first class only when we surround ourselves with those who value us. I hope my story brought you some relief. Thank you for listening to the end. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Every click gives me the strength to prepare new stories. I'm also interested in your opinion. How would you have acted in my place on the wedding day? Or perhaps there are people in your circle suffering from similar audacious relatives. Share your stories in the comments. I will definitely read and reply to everything, and I'll return next time with an even sharper and more refreshing story. I wish you to be confident and happy with yourselves today.